My daughter is 7. She's been taking ballet lessons since she was 4, but has only been enrolled in this particular dance school for about a year. There are only 6 other girls in her class all around her age, and she has 2 lessons a week. Anyway, earlier this week, my daughter came home with an invitation from her teacher. She's inviting the girls, all 7 of them, to spend the night at her house on the last weekend of April. According to my daughter, the teacher told the girls that it's a slumber party. The pitch apparently included McDonald's movies and games. I've spoken to the other moms, and they've all confirmed that their daughters got the same invitation. None of us have been notified by the school, so I have to assume the teacher is planning this on her own. She has not spoken to any of us about this directly, only to our daughters. Some of the girls seem to be excited, but my daughter is still anxious about spending the night away from us, so she wouldn't be going even if I was okay with this. Which I'm not. I have never spoken to this teacher about anything besides my child, nor do I know anything about her personal life or home. I've been thinking of complaining to the dance school about this because I've never heard of teachers doing this before. And I'm a little freaked out, but at least 2 of the other moms don't seem to have a problem with it, and I can't help but wonder whether I'm overreacting. Is this normal? Honestly, I just need some advice here. Some comments. Honestly, I think I'd still be bothered if she had communicated with us. But the fact she spoke directly to the girls before anything else does make things worse. Commenter. Nah, that's very weird. If the school and parents were aware and consented, then it'd probably be okay. But to only bring it up to the kids is very strange. I suggest you and the other moms go to the school about this. Original poster replied, I don't speak to most of the other moms as much as I wish I did. It's a pretty famous dance school in our area, and a couple of them seem to be stage mom types. I talk regularly to some of the other ones about the kids, but my husband is usually the one who picks our daughter up, so I don't have that much contact. The group chat, which is how we're discussing this, is for emergencies only. What I could do is ask if anyone else wants to do something about this. Commenter. Fair warning here. If you tell them in the group chat that you are going to talk to the school, be prepared for potential backlash from other parents or from the teacher. Not saying it will happen, but absolutely could. Original poster replied that tracks would, asking how everyone felt and then reaching out to some of them in private be a better idea. How old is the teacher? Early 30s, I think she's around my age, but on the younger side. Original poster expands. The teacher does not have children. As far as I know, I wouldn't complain about this, because I felt like it, or out of evil intent. I don't want to accuse her of anything. And if she does mean well, I don't want her to lose her job over this. All of that said, I don't think she should be encouraged to keep doing this. None of the parents of the children she invited were notified in advance, and I don't think the school knows about this either. Commenter. But you were notified in advance. You got an invitation via your daughter. The teacher didn't spring this on the day of. When there are field trips at normal schools, the permission slips are sent home with the kids. The school doesn't notify the parents in advance. And an invitation is not a summons. You can choose not to send your daughter there, but the other parents can make their own choice to do so. Original poster replied, a field trip is not the same as a sleepover. Permission slips are formal documents sent by the school, not informal invitations sent by the teachers. And giving an invitation to a 7-year-old does not count as notifying the parents in advance. There was no communication on her part. The invitation does not address or mention the parents at all. She included her phone number but didn't ask for ours. Commenter. Why even send her to dance if you don't trust people? Original poster replied, trusting someone to teach your kid ballet for a couple hours twice a week isn't the same as trusting them to take your child for a night. And again, I know next to nothing about her home or personal life. Commenter, white women watch way too much true crime. Y'all trying to find wickedness in the most inane things. If you're uncomfortable, then don't send her, but it's more on you than on the teacher. It's not weird to have a coach-teacher facilitate some type of overnight group thing for a large group of kids. This gives them a chance to be shortly away from home in a safe environment. If she hasn't done anything to give you pause, this is a you issue. Original poster replied, I don't watch true crime at all, nor am I white, I'm just worried. I'm not trying to accuse her of anything, but I can't interpret inviting over half a dozen 7-year-olds to spend the night at your house without talking to their parents first as anything other than inappropriate update. 11 days later. Thank you all for your input. A lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I won't waste time and try to convince anyone to like me. If you've already decided I'm a true crime-obsessed neurotic helicopter parent Karen with diaper energy and social anxiety issues, I don't think there's much I can say that will change your mind. And yes, I've heard of lock-ins. My son had one with his swim team last year. He's a bit older. It happened at the pool. Guardians were informed before the children were, and one of the other parents chaperoned. It's not the same thing as an unofficial sleepover at a teacher's house. All of that said, I never intended to risk this woman's job. I was just worried. So I spoke to my husband, and we decided to take your advice and speak to my daughter's teacher first. He spoke to her while picking up our daughter last week. He said the conversation went fine, but he was bothered by her reaction when he said our daughter wouldn't attend. He told the teacher our kid was anxious, but she replied that the sleepover would be a great opportunity for her to come out of her shell and that we should try to encourage our daughter to come. During the conversation, my husband also found out the following. She came up with the sleepover idea because she wanted to bond with the girls and figured it would be fun. She didn't ask for another parent to act as a chaperone because her husband had offered to help her first time she ever mentioned his existence. When asked about what she'd do in case of emergency, she just stated she lived about 10 minutes away from a hospital. She didn't ask for the parents' contact information because she didn't think of it. After he told me all this, I decided to email the dance school. I wrote that the teacher was planning a sleepover about which the parents had not received a lot of information. 2 days later, we all got an email from the teacher stating she was canceling the sleepover due to a complaint from the dance school. She also apologized for not being more transparent with us. Some of the other moms are planning another sleepover at one of their houses so that the girls won't be upset. Not sure where or when it will happen yet, but I'm trying to keep up to date. Ultimately, even though I still don't know what the sleepover would have been like, I don't regret this. When it comes to my children, I'd rather be paranoid and wrong than regretful. And right. If I complained and it turned out to be a completely innocent event, I'd feel embarrassed even after apologizing. But it might be something I could laugh about someday. If I let my daughter go and something happened to her, or any of the other girls, I would never forgive myself. I will reply to comments for the next day or so. But I won't update again. Thank you all. Some comments, commenter. I think that was the right call. I personally believe the teacher had nothing but good intentions, but it's a learning lesson to be as transparent with the parents and school as possible. If you want to plan something like this. Edit. Guys, I appreciate the comments and upvotes, but you do not need to spam. The road is paved with good intentions every few minutes. Original poster replied, I agree that's a possibility, but this also felt really unprofessional. I still don't understand why she didn't email us about the sleepover before talking to the kids about it, especially when that would have been much easier. At no point did she speak to us about this. She didn't ask anyone for contact information or allergies and didn't mention anyone else would be there with her. Commenter 100% the right call. In due time, you'll find out you and your daughter dodged a bullet. I'd start looking for a new dance school or a different teacher. This is not safe. Original poster replied, she'll have a different teacher in August, so I don't mind letting her stay for the next 2 months, unless something like this happens again. Commenter second, she mentioned her husband helping. That's a huge no and should be reported. Original poster replied, her husband might be a lovely person, but I have no way of knowing that for sure. The fact she didn't think of mentioning him beforehand does strike me as odd, though. Trust me, I'm alarmed. We're an immigrant family, so I try to be mindful of cultural differences between the country I started raising my children in and the one we currently live in. It's pretty much the only reason why I question this. I'm very sorry to learn what happened to you and your sister.
I got my father and brother arrested. I, a 21-year-old male, have an older brother, Drake, fake name, that has always been a jerk to me. There's only a 1-year gap between us. But he liked to beat me up when we were kids, and he always acted like anything that was mine was also his. He was also somewhat the golden child, which made me miserable. So no surprise, I moved out at 18. My uncle is a now retired police officer, and he took me in after I left home. He even hooked me up with a decommissioned Crown Vic. I absolutely love that car. I don't know why, but Drake hated the fact I had that car. He drove 3 beater cars into the ground while my Crown Vic kept chugging along. Well, after his 3rd beater finally died when he drove it into a pole, he asked to borrow my car. I had a bad feeling and said I wasn't going to do that. He called me entitled and said he needed a car to get to work. I told him to take the bus because I know how he drives, and my Crown Vic was off limits. My parents called me after that and told me to just lend him my car. I said I won't no matter what they say. I rely on the car and need it as well since it's my personal transportation. Drake wasn't the only one in the world with a job he needed to get to. My uncle congratulated me for standing up to them and gave me a high five. A few days later, when I got off work, the car wasn't where I parked it. I called my brother's cell, but he didn't pick up. Then I called my parents and asked them if he took my car. They denied it. So I said I was going to call the cops, and then they admitted he'd borrowed it because he needed it. I told them he'd better bring it back right now, or I'll have police looking for him. They called me a jerk and then phoned Drake to bring my car back. He showed back up in the parking lot in my car 20 minutes later. I demanded to know how he stole my car, and he held up a set of police Crown Vic keys he'd bought online. Some were made universal. I told him if he ever stole my car again, I'd have him arrested. Then he had the audacity to ask for a ride home. I told him he made me wait in the December cold after stealing my car so he could walk. He called me a jerk before I drove away. After that, my uncle installed a tracking device in the car. When Christmas Day came, I was celebrating with my family like every year. The roads were cold and icy, so I had to be very careful while driving. By now, you're probably clued in on the title. Yeah, Drake borrowed my car again during the Christmas party. Apparently, he decided he was going to go pick up a friend and figured I wouldn't notice. But I did when I looked out the front window and saw my car was missing. I pulled up the tracking app and saw he was a few miles away. Then called his cell to yell at him. Everyone in the party saw this and asked what was going on. I said Drake stole my car again, and my uncle confirmed it wasn't the first time. Drake told me over the phone to screw off and he'd be back soon. I said he better not have been drinking, but he just hung up on me. Well, while I was watching the tracker app, the dot stopped and didn't move for a while. Soon we got a panicked call from Drake asking for help. He'd crashed the car because he couldn't handle the icy roads, and he wasn't used to a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So we piled in my parents' minivan and followed the tracker. We found Drake by the road and my Crown Vic nose deep in a snow-filled ditch. My uncle was furious as it was formerly a car of his department. And I was mad as hell at Drake for stealing my car again. My parents wanted me to let it go, but I said enough was enough and was going to call the police. Drake begged me not to because he really had been drinking before he set off and would get a driving under the influence. I said he was going to pay me back for my damned car, then or I'd sue him. Well, as luck would have it, police were already aware of the accident and were driving in to check on the scene. Someone else had called them, I guess. My parents tried to say that I was the one driving the car, and they were just there to help me. I said that wasn't true, and my uncle backed me up. In fact, one of the cops that was there recognized my uncle, and they had a chat. Then they went to Drake and asked to see his license, which I then found out was suspended after he'd crashed his previous car. Then they breath tested him. He wound up with cuffs slapped in his wrists while my mother was crying and begging the police not to take him away. But the officer just said that she and my dad could get arrested too for lying to the police. That shut my parents up, and we got back in the minivan. The Christmas party ended early, and my parents drove me and my uncle home since he rode with me. They didn't say much to either of us the whole drive, and just sped away as soon as we were out of their van. They nearly slipped off the road themselves doing that. My brother was let out of jail the next day, and he looked so scared that he was practically crying. The cops there had roughed him up a bit while talking about prison and the Hotman % they'd seen go on there. Drake had actually pissed himself during that, and they let him take a shower. That's when my uncle started cracking up and revealed to us that his friends in the department never filed the driving under the influence and just the charge for the suspended license, which was about a $600 fine. My uncle said he just wanted to teach Drake a lesson, and this would be the one and only time he'd ever get his help. Drake then apologized to me and said he'd pay to have my Crown Vic fixed and would never touch it again. When it got pulled out of the ditch, the front end damage was actually minor. It needs a new front bumper, a headlight, and a grille. The damage was just superficial, thankfully. My parents have pretty much glossed over the whole incident and act like it didn't happen. Drake gave me the extra Crown Vic keys he'd bought online and said this has taught him a lesson he won't soon forget. Update 1. Parents were sour at me for making my brother pay me back for damaging my car. Now my father is in jail. Well, this is an update to my previous post, and this all went down yesterday. My brother promised he'd pay for the damage to my car, and he kept that promise. The body shop guy cut me a deal at a fair price for replacing the damaged front end parts on my Crown Vic. He just asked if I cared whether or not they were OEM. I told him I didn't care if they were OEM, as the car is far from new and I didn't need the bill to get too high. I thought that the damage was only cosmetic, but there was some minor damage the body shop will need to pull out. But it's not frame damage and is an easy job to straighten out, they told me. There was some minor damage to the fender panels, but they said they're easy to fix, especially since I don't care that they aren't perfect. And the new parts will be painted in a matching color, so that's good. My brother willingly paid cash in advance to the body shop after getting the quote from them. He seemed all too eager to hand the money over and politely bid me goodbye. I won't say how much it was, but it definitely hurt his savings, especially after the fine he had to pay for driving without a license. He was wanting to get a replacement car, but he won't have one till his license suspension is over anyway. And I don't know when that'll be, but I think it's going to be a good while. Anyway, my parents had given my brother a ride to the body shop, and as soon as he was out the door, they stayed and admonished me for making him spend all his money fixing my car. I imagine they were about to say something about how I should have just lent my car to him to begin with, and how this all would have been prevented if I had. But something in me snapped, and I cut them off, and that's when it spilled out. I called them out on everything that came to mind, all of the favoritism. How they act like my brother has always been more important. How I had to move in with my uncle just to escape their unfair treatment. How they let my brother steal my car and then tried to lie to me until I threatened the police. How they themselves tried to lie to police by saying I was the one driving when my brother crashed my Crown Vic. And so much more. And I ended it all with saying how stupid it was that they were mad at me for making my brother pay for the damage that he caused by stealing my car on Christmas effing day and driving it without a license and while intoxicated. By the time I finally stopped, I was nearly out of breath. My mother was crying. My father was red in the face and looked like he was about to explode. Then he just took my mother by the hand and started to walk out. But some guy I don't know who was sitting near the door blurted out, "You guys are narcissists." Well, that was enough to set my father over the edge as he started attacking the guy. My father is not a small man, and he knows how to throw a punch. So he started beating the crap out of the poor guy like a mad gorilla. I yelled for the clerk to call the cops, and they did. My father heard that and bolted out the door and drove off. He actually left my mother behind, crying in the lobby. Police had to pick him up at home, and he surprisingly cooperated when he was arrested. But he's looking at charges for assault. The guy he beat up suffered a very swollen black eye and a possible broken nose and concussion. I was there when they were loading him into the ambulance to get him to the hospital. My mother has called me crying and blaming herself. My uncle is saying it was about time my dad tasted some karma, and my brother is doing everything he can to stay out of it. This is not how I thought this was all going to go down. Update 2. My parents were sour at me for making my brother pay for the damage he caused to my car. Now karma is hitting them hard. Well, my father is out of jail now, and I'm told he looks like crap. My mother paid his bail, and he came out looking nearly as beat up as what he did to the guy he attacked. Apparently, he picked a fight while in jail over the weekend and got swarmed by other people there. My uncle went with my mother when my father was let out and described to me what he looked like. He said he's got 2 black eyes, dark bruises everywhere, a fat lip, and he's missing a tooth. My uncle said he didn't try to blame anything on me. In fact, he barely talked, just got in the minivan with my mother and went home. And I did manage to get in contact with the guy my father beat up. A friend of a friend knows him. I'll call him Dan for the sake of telling this. My father beat Dan up pretty bad. He's got a concussion from his head hitting the wall after taking several punches. His nose was indeed broken, he's in a neck brace, and he spent 2 days in the hospital. When I asked him what his plans were, he confirmed he is indeed going to be suing my father and has already spoken to a lawyer. I told him to do what he has to do. Beyond that, I have no details on the case. My friends and I put together a gift basket for Dan, and we each put some money into it since he's not going to be able to go to work for a while. My uncle even contributed, even though he didn't have to. Dan was very thankful when we presented it to him. My mother hasn't tried to call or text me since my father was released, but my brother has told me through texts that she's still been crying a bit, and my father has remained pretty much silent since he got home and hardly leaves the couch. The last time my father was like this, he didn't speak to anyone for at least a week. But this situation is way worse than what made him go silent last time. Final update. I know it's been months, but I finally have an update for everyone. The guy my father beat up is doing fine now. Other than needing to have his nose fixed, the rest of his wounds healed fine. He filed a lawsuit against my parents, and my father was initially stubborn as an ox about it and was dead set on fighting it. But he ended up changing his mind. Why? Well, for multiple reasons. The first one being someone in the middle of the night broke several of the windows on my parents' minivan. My uncle says that the police were pretty sure it was done with a BB gun. I guess that makes sense. But no culprit was found. My father replaced the windows on the van himself as he's done it before, and no one has vandalized the vehicle since. But I think whoever did it may be friends or family with the guy my father beat the poop out of. The next thing was, my father was told by a lawyer that he had no chance of winning in court. There was CCTV footage, multiple witnesses, including myself, and no judge in their right mind would want to listen to my father. The last thing that made him change his mind was that my mother threatened to divorce him. And I guess that was enough for him to finally surrender in mediation before the lawsuit went to full court. He settled with the guy he beat up in the mechanic shop for an amount that I haven't been able to find out as my mother won't tell me. But I'm guessing it was a lot. My father also has been forced to go to anger management as part of the agreement. I've only seen him a few times the past few months, and it's pretty obvious he's still mad at me because he avoids looking at me and constantly looks mad. But after everything that's happened, he no longer has a way to justify his anger. Not even to himself. He just sits quietly and fumes. He's also apparently cut back on drinking a lot. Probably because that's one less expense he and my mother would have to deal with. Now on to my brother. You may all be pleased to hear that he's been working hard to mend things with me. He's moved out of our parents' house and in with a friend. He's got his license back, but no car as he can't afford one yet. Instead, he's been riding a bike to get to work. His relationship with our parents is more strained now, though. After a while, our father started turning his ire on my brother. He finally started blaming him for all of the holy crap that happened over the holidays. And our mother had to make him calm down. He's a lot calmer now since he started going to anger management. But it's obvious he still hates me. But it's not like my parents are offering to do family therapy or couples therapy with each other. And I suspect the reason why is because my father doesn't want more people telling him he's wrong. My mother, brother, and uncle all agree with that too. My father is still employed. His clientele dropped for a while, but he's back on his feet now. My mother says he wants to get a denture made at the dentist for his missing teeth. Yeah, Turns out he lost more than one tooth after getting out of jail. It was just one initially, but several of his upper teeth were already in bad shape, and he had to have several of them pulled. So he's missing 6 teeth on the upper left side of his mouth now. A lot of people in my early posts chastised my uncle for keeping my brother's driving under the influence from getting filed, and I was on the fence about that myself. My uncle read a lot of the comments, and finally, after a few months, said that he'll never do something like that again, no matter who it is. I agreed with him, and my brother knows too. So no one is ever going to expect my uncle will just fix something if they get arrested. So that's my final update, everyone. See you all later. Yes, my car is doing fine. It has a tracker and a button that can turn a specific feature off when needed now, and there have been no mechanical issues with it since it was repaired.